Welcome back, Lenz Now Review, episode 43. It's been a little while since I've actually done one of the episode for this series, but not too long. I think it's been like a month. But yeah, got a Star Trek book for you. Star Trek, Section 31, Control, by David Mack. Now, some of you are probably asking, Nick, what the heck is Section 31? And what does it have to do with Star Trek? And when did it first show up? Okay, Section 31 was an organization that was first introduced during the last two seasons of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. It made its first appearance when they had the episode of the series when they had the DS9, when they had Dr. Bashir go to Romulus, which had been the first time in the Star Trek continuity that the Romulus has been seen, at least any Starfleet officer has gone to Romulus since the two-part unification, which featured the guest star appearance by the late awesome Leonard Nimoy reprising his role as Spock, and the only reason why he was there was to promote Star Trek VI, which the episode did references. Bashir went back there 7 years later, and by the way, the guy who was the first consul in that unification two-parter, same actor, reprised his role for that episode, and he had aged. It looked like he aged 20. It looked like he aged 20 years in just 7 years. The guy got much older. Now, the first agent they introduced from Section 31 is a guy by the name of Luther Salome, played by William Sadler. People who know the show Roswell know him as the guy who was the sheriff of the Roswell. Well, he was the sheriff of the show Roswell. That's what a lot of people know him as. But he did this show first before he did Roswell. And Section 31 popped up a handful of times on Deep Space Nine, and he popped up for a few episodes on at least about 4 episodes of Enterprise during the last season of the show, when they revealed that the armory officer, Malcolm Reed, was actually an agent of Section 31 when he was an ensign. Now, this book has references to the Enterprise era. I mean, the 22nd century stuff starts from 2250. Actually, it's 2150 to about 2163. Yeah, it basically kind of fills in. It takes place a lot either pretty much before, during, and just after the Enterprise TV show. And it has basically, and the writer basically thanks, what's his name? I think his name is Christopher L. Bennett, I believe his name is. Yes. Christopher L. Bennett, who's the writer of the Star Trek Enterprise Rise of Federation novels. Yeah, he actually got notes from him. And he also thanked, in the acknowledgments, basically, Keith R.A. Ducato for creating the character Ozla Greenoff, who basically appeared in the last of the Time 2 series, A Time for War and Time for Peace. Now, I should point out, though, the novels from that series are actually, the titles in those books are actually taken from a chapter from the Book of Proverbs. Yes, Time for War, Time for Peace, Time for Kill, stuff like that. Yeah, that's where those titles come from. I've actually looked it up. If you look up in the Book of Proverbs, that's where those titles come from. And basically, David Mack, with this book wraps up, it basically ties into several Star Trek novels, and plus also wraps them up. Basically, you can kind of think of this book as wrapping up a lot of loose ends that have been basically left hanging for the past 17 years since the relaunch happened. Yes, for the past 17 years, there probably has been loose threads hanging in the background. This book wraps up pretty much a good majority of them. Like, there's references to Time 2 series when Nambako's predecessor was forced to resign thanks to a coup. But Captain Picard is referencing here. Now, I don't know if what happened in this book is going to play into the Star Trek Next Generation novel. I don't know. It'd be interesting if it does. Now, this is actually a follow-up to a book I have not read yet, which is called Star Trek, 31 is called Disavowed, where they went to an alternate universe. That's actually referenced in here. And Deep Space Nine, the Section 31 episodes are actually referenced in here, along with, let's see, yeah, they reference the Time 2 series, they reference a bunch of stuff, and this is something quite interesting. I thought this was so cool, with the fact that you had David Mack basically getting notes from a lot of these other writers who he's good friends with, and basically tying it into the Section 31 novel. Pretty much the whole point of this novel is simply just to take down Section 31. I won't spoil if they succeed. I will tell you this. Julian Bashir won't be the same after this. Basically, he's the main character of this novel with Serena Davis. Data's in here, along with Lau. These making the first appearance since that one-shot follow-up to Code Equations trilogy. Sorry about that. I had to sneeze. Yeah, basically it brings them back for the first time since that novel. And they do give a change in here, and we also find out who's actually in charge of Section 31. Yeah, for the first time we ever actually... Now, it's been assumed for years, if you watch the show, it's assumed that Luther Salome was actually in charge of Section 31. He was one of its directors. Action control of an AI known as Control. Apparently was established in the 2150s, and pretty much has been in charge of Section 31 for the past 200 years. Yeah, by the time this... I'd say about 235 years that the organization had been around. And I won't spoil the ending, but it's a very good ending. Oh, and the president who first showed up in the Star Trek Fall series, the one who's an Andorian, yeah, she's in here as well. She only appears for like one chapter. And it's kind of similar to that of some other books I've read where it's also similar to an episode of SVU where this black book is actually sort of released to the public, and there's mass arrest. They kind of do the same thing with another Star Trek novel for Voyager, when they wrap up that storyline involving the whole virus thing, which had been going on in the Star Trek Voyager books for at least about 3 or 4 books, and there were mass arrests in that book. That was during when Nambaka was president. So, the whole mass arrest thing, pretty much, yeah, I'll spoil this. They get taken down. The Section 31. Yeah, and there's mass arrests. I won't spoil who gets arrested, but apparently Captain Picard's reputation is called into question. Yeah, this is something I would like to see follow up in the Next Generation novels. I'm sure Dave Mack probably would tell whoever is writing Next Generation novels probably to do that. Maybe Dave Mack himself probably do it. Oh, this is something I thought was really interesting. Okay, they're on the run from Section 31. Basically, Bashir, Serena Douglas, Data, and Lau, and thinking, where would they go? They could go clean an empire, but Martok wants to stay in good terms with Federation. Let's see, Frankie Alliance has talked about. Well, Rom probably did the same thing. Basically, they'll go along with what Rom says. I'm thinking though, what would the Cardassian Union? Well, the Federation helped the results, help them with the rebuilding process, help them with the reconstruction efforts after the Mini War. But they thought, okay, we'll stick to the Cardassian thing. Why don't we go to the Cardassian Prime? And thinking, bam! In Star Trek The Fall Book 2, Garak was elected, basically he's the leader of the Cardassian Union. And since he's an old friend of Bashir's, so why not? And I think at this point, I don't think Bashir and Garak have ever been... This is the first time I can think of, during the post-relaunch books, that Garak and Bashir have been in the same novel. Yeah, that's something quite interesting. Yeah, I'm thinking, wow, this is actually quite interesting. These two have never been in a novel before. I mean, they have been in novels before, basically, that are set during the DS9 TV show, or at least when it was books that were coming out during TV, but during the relaunch, this never happened. At all. This is a first. And I do praise, heck, Ezra Dax is in here as well, which is nice. This book is just purely amazing. If you're a fan of the Star Trek novels, if you're reading them since 2001, basically stuff set after, basically stuff that came out after Star Trek Nemesis, at least before and after basically the book came out since 2001, you would really enjoy this. And also, if you're a fan of Deep Space Nine, I recommend this book to you as well, because there are stuff referenced from Deep Space Nine here as well. Like Section 31 creating the virus that basically tried to wipe out the Founders. That's brought up in here. So, yeah. A lot of questions that kind of need to be answered, little bitty ones here and there, and basically this all comes to a head. It took them in universe approximately, let's see, the whole thing with the Time 2 War stuff, that actually took place 7 years before this novel. So yeah, a lot of stuff was followed up with, which was really nice for Dave Mack to do, and a lot of stuff is wrapped up. Now, there is stuff with Dr. Bashir. I won't tell exactly what happened to him, but it's kind of bad. Oh, he doesn't die. He does not die. Just that he is suffering. Let's just say. I'm not going to spoil exactly how he's suffering. You have to read a novel to figure out what exactly happened to him. I'm glad the fact Dave Mack did not kill him off, because that would have been really stupid to do. I mean, Bashir is a good character. Heck, I've watched the AS9. I really enjoy watching him. He's probably he was actually one of the most interesting characters in Deep Space Nine. And one thing that was quite interesting about Deep Space Nine, even though the one thing that I thought was quite weird, I mean, yeah, Star Trek is in pop culture, Next Generation pop culture, but not Deep Space Nine. I don't get it. It's a great show. It has good character. It continues some of Gene Roddenberry's ideals, even though that some of the writers from the show basically are not forced to do whatever Roddenberry or his stupid lawyer or jerk of a lawyer basically is telling him to do. Yeah, I've heard his lawyer was a complete dick to a lot of the writers. Yeah, though in the case of Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, basically, one of the biggest strengths of the show was its character stuff. And the story was good, too. Every single character got character development. It didn't focus on 3 people. It focused every character got development. Well, except for Rom. Half the time he never got developed at all. But I would say a good chunk of them were developed. I'd say except for Rom and probably his, basically by the time it was, and his wife, who he married at the end of season 5. Yeah, with the exception of those two, pretty much a lot of pretty much just about every single character who showed up on Deep Space Nine got developed really well. I think the only character I can think of who was left on the back burner aside from Rom and Leah was probably Keiko. Keiko got some development over the course of the series, but if you want to think of characters who got the most development, Bashir was definitely one of them. Yeah, Bashir, Sisko, Dax, Kira, Miles, these characters got a lot of development. Odo got development. Heck, even freaking Quark. Heck, also Jake Sisko, despite the fact he was just there to be a supporting character for Ben Sisko, he got development as well. Everyone, just a few of them basically didn't get much development. They got developed slowly. But Bashir basically is one of the best characters in the show. If you ask me personally who's my favorite character from Deep Space Nine, Bashir is my number 2. My number 1 is Ben Sisko, because he's just an awesome guy. Yep. And one of the best things about Deep Space Nine is the friendship between Bashir and Miles. Miles is referenced in here, even though he doesn't make a physical appearance, but at least he's referenced. Ezri Dax is in here, briefly, not very much. 9.5 out of 10. Alright, that's it for this episode. Stay tuned for whenever I get a chance to do episode 44. But, yeah, next episode. But until then, I will see you there. Bye.